You're listening to the Downshift podcast, where four mates from Melbourne take you trackside for all the action in Formula One, breaking down the races, the drama, and everything in between, all with a little banter and a lot of passion. If you love motorsport and cars, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're always on the grid with us. And if you want to support the team, leave us a 5-star review. So let's get into another action-packed episode. It's lights out, drop the clutch, and let's get racing. Hello and welcome to the Downshift as we're doing the review of the Silverstone Grand Prix in Great Britain, a race where rain always makes things a little bit more interesting. But as we came in, we saw that we had Max Verstappen, who was surrounded, and you'll see here by the picture that Sky Sports posted on their socials, surrounded by reporters wanting to get a bit of an idea in regards to what's going on with Max, Mercedes and George. What did we think of that team?
Poor Max. Poor Max.
He looks pretty excited.
I don't think Max would have started the rumour. So whoever started that rumour has put him in this situation, and he looks very, very unhappy.
Is that Zach Brown in the background laughing, or am I just mistaken?
We think it's George. The rumour is it might have been George, just so we can get some leverage for contract negotiation.
No, we're coming from Max Verstappen, who's openly said when they were talking about the F1 movie, he goes, "I don't like dressing up. I don't like making fake conversations with people. I just want to drive."
So he tested a GT3 at Spa instead, though. That's a good choice.
A lot of scuttlebutt, but really nothing concrete coming out in regard to that. So we still have George Russell without a contract. We've got Max Verstappen, who's apparently got so many exit clauses. There's more than you can count, according to anyone you speak to.
Who do you believe? Christian Horner reckons he's locked up tight till 2028. So
yeah, the apparent insider said it's going to cost him $100 million to get out of his contract.
Yeah, every contract can be broken. It just depends on how much someone's willing to pay, really. But are Red Bull really going to give up Max Verstappen? He's their only good option at the moment, and he's the only one scoring points. It would take $300 million to get rid of Max, surely. Anyway, Bottas is probably heading to Cadillac by the sounds of it, and
that's the
Nico.
rumor.
Nico's still highly rated. We can talk about Nico. It was a good result for him on the weekend.
We'll cover off that afterwards. That's all right.
We'll get to Nico.
Yep, it definitely was. So, and look, Sky was having a great weekend. They were loving themselves in regards to all the new toys that they had at their disposal. We had Karoom, who was sitting at the Sky pit wall position with about a dozen screens where they had the camera directly on him saying, "Ask me a question."
Yeah.
And they asked him a question. He goes, "I'll have to come back to you on that."
Was that pit wall stall like left over from the F1 movie? Did they just have had that extra one?
I think it was. Yeah.
They kind of go, "Oh, well, we'll just leave it here. We might need it for next year anyway."
They were sitting at the Apex booth, and all the screens were blank because it was all fake. Poor Ant Davidson was sitting there in the rain as well. Like he had nothing much to add. Poor bugger.
Look, he was having a great deal of fun with it. I'm not sure he could answer any questions or provide any information, but he looked like he was having a ball with all those screens hanging around, and he was most chuffed with that.
So a great track which offers a lot of viewing pleasure, some really great fast straights and some really technical corners as well. We saw coming into qualifying as for Q1, we saw a spin by Colapinto into the wall in the last corner. So just not a great look for Colapinto there.
Still making the odd mistake, unfortunately.
I think Flavio was pretty impressed with that spin too, if I remember the reaction that he had.
Yeah, no, he wasn't happy. There was actually quite a few, wasn't there? A few little offs during. Well, we're talking Q1 now, but even through the practice sessions too, there was a few cars that were just missing the mark and just slightly going off track.
The wind was gusting and pushing them, so they'd go to take a corner, and all of a sudden they'd be, moved over a bit and able to throw them all out of their lines and all that.
And then we saw Ferrari being Ferrari with sending Hamilton out on the last 6 minutes with just enough fuel to do one lap.
Gee, that was hard to watch. Like he had, he was sort of just sitting down there in 14th, I think he was, and they're just like, you just got your fingers crossed hoping that he gets through because he's shouldn't have been down there.
Well, you got 6 minutes to go in the session. Surely you would put in enough fuel in case he cocks up the first lap.
Yeah. But you hear him asking the pit, he goes, "So can I do another lap?" "No." "What do you mean no?" "Oh, there's no more fuel." "What do you mean there's no?" Like, he was absolutely flabbergasted that he couldn't do another lap in that car.
I think he got his own fuel card out and goes, "I'll fill it up." Pay.
Rip into BP, swipe the card, off we go.
Yes,
And to your point is it's where you were just crossing your fingers, just hoping that he did not get knocked out. I mean, it was so close to being knocked out of that top 15.
Yeah.
And I think, Christian, you were saying Zach Brown had a comment at the end of that session as well, didn't he?
Look, that was my favourite comment of the weekend. So Zach Brown was the team principal in focus for the weekend. So as they cross over him to get special comments throughout the weekend, and they said, "Oh, so Zach, how are you going? It was a bit of a tough one. You weren't performing as well as you probably hoped to." And he goes, "We were expecting Haas and Williams to be right up there," and then had a little chuckle to himself, thinking, "I'm so clever."
Yeah, I'm sure they appreciated that too. Yeah.
And look, as we then went through the rest of qualifying, we got to Q3 and we just saw, just coming to the tail end of it, Piastri putting in an absolute flying lap early in the session, holding P1 for a period of time. He actually damaged his floor. He thought he damaged his floor in that first flying lap, so that potentially could have had an impact on his last lap. But then we saw that Verstappen just put in an absolute clinical final lap, which put him a tenth ahead of Piastri.
Yep, came through again, Max Verstappen. Like,
Jump on the Max rocket and through he goes.
yeah, look, and even other drivers on the grid like Alonso are openly saying he's the best driver at the moment. And to take a car that was seen to be performing so badly through some of their practice sessions, like he was nowhere. They were like 10th or 12th. And
didn't they describe it as a shopping cart at one stage? Was that?
Did you see the
description of that
onboard
one?
footage coming into turn 3 and 4? Like, he just wouldn't turn. It was just horrible on throttle, and he manages to stick it on pole with a lap like that. Like, he's unbelievable. He really is.
It feels like every time they move the car, they must put it back together wrong or something. Because seems like every session he's going, "This thing is undrivable. What do you expect? It's crap. I can't do anything with it." Always, every session he
And
says
10 minutes
something
later,
bad about
pole
it,
position.
and then he's like, "Oh,
They-
pole position."
They need the Lego manual, and they need to read. They can't skip pages. When you're putting it back together, you got to go through all the steps. Like, that's how you got to do it.
He just in those pressure situations, he's that driver that can just drive it right to the limit without making the mistake and nail the pressure lap or the pressure result. Like, he just does it so often. Like, it's really unbelievable. He's very, very good. Apart from late in the race, there was a very uncharacteristic mistake.
We'll get there.
I was shocked. But anyway, we'll
Don't
get to
jump
that
the
bit.
gun, Nate. Don't jump the gun.
Sorry, no spoilers. No spoilers.
And look, it's a testament to his skill. He's a driver who, when he needs to, he can just dial it up to 11. And it almost seems to be a switch. Watching that final qualifying lap, it was smooth. And if you watch the onboard footage through that final lap, he was just gliding through the corners. And so you can see there in a top 10 field, which was separated by a second, he's a tenth ahead of his nearest competitor in Piastri.
And you could see how he was gliding through that field because of the Fox Sport, the blue line, like that trace line that they've got now, that new little tracing tool.
Oh, yeah.
They had
Made it
fun with
really
that tool.
obvious.
They loved that little tool.
They loved it, yeah.
Yeah. That made multiple appearances.
comparing his lap with Oscar's and so on, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, in Q3, I think Oscar and Lando both admitted that their last, because they were going for last flying laps, that they just didn't, there was a couple of bits they just didn't
Yeah, they had
quite
wiggles.
stick. Yeah, a bit of, missed a couple of things. So they were probably in line to be up there or be a bit further up there, but still not a bad starting row.
That's the difference between them and Max. You know, Max 9 times out of 10 will nail the best lap possible in the car he's given, and sometimes better. Whereas every now and again, you know, Lando or Oscar are going to make even just a small wiggle out of one corner, you know, can cost you half a tenth or a tenth, and that's pole position gone. So you can't even afford to make a tiny mistake.
Yeah, but Lando wasn't, not Lando, so Max wasn't really, I mean, he was close to the front in other sessions. It's just that he got the last one right. You know, I mean,
that's the one that matters.
Lando and Oscar got other, of course it is, but, you know, Lando and Oscar got other laps right because they weren't far off. Was it 0.085 in the end, but difference between first and second, or?
One bum
Wasn't
wiggle's
much in
all it
it.
takes, Dan. That's it.
Oh, no, yeah, of course.
The process of getting to your fastest Q3 lap, like in theory, you want to build up to it. So each lap through the quali sessions, you want to go slightly quicker, break another few meters deeper that turn, you know, get on the power meter too early that turn. Like, you do it bit by bit. So you're not trying to chase half a second on your last lap. Do you know what I mean? And Max does that really well. He progresses through every session and just seems to do that process really well. Whereas some of the other drivers like Oscar put a lap in his second to last lap. So his first run in Q3, was a great lap, and Max is obviously chasing it, but Oscar, maybe he was pushing too hard. Maybe he was trying to break 10 meters later somewhere or get on the power that much earlier. Like, Max just put that much pressure on everyone. Like, he performs that quali process building up to that lap just perfectly.
And you see that, and Happy, you talk about Oscar as he was coming into turns 3 and 4, and so I put the graphic up here so we can see that's where Oscar was slowing. It was in those slow speed corners where he was losing his time. Through the high speeds, doing really well, and Red Bull changed their setup just at the last minute to take away downforce, so they were getting a bit more speed through the track.
Yeah, great for quali, risky for a wet race. Obviously, less downforce, less grip.
So, speaking of precipitation, our weather expert predicted that we would have a wet Sunday. So, Lachie, what a difference rain makes.
Well, mate, how good was that? I told you it was going to be a dry for the practice session. Come the race day, it was going to be rain. And I believe there was a guy wearing a papaya hat on our screen right now who doubted that and said there was a less chance of rain on the Sunday. But as usual, the weather people got it right, because we always do. And a bit of a wet start, bit of a wet middle, and a bit of a wet finish in the end. So actually, it was a dry finish towards the end. But the spray coming off those cars to start with was great to watch.
Had it all, like, because we were watching they came out on track and they were doing a few the pre warm up laps or whatever time they've got to do, the few laps they've got to get ready, and then they come in for their last formation and all the pit crews are still there. And even those last few laps, like, there was rain and it was looking pretty heavy, and they've all come up for their formation, or they've come to the line up at the pits, and then I think that was still raining at that stage, and then it sort of stopped and cleared, and then by the time they went to start the race, it was like the sun was out. And
it was a heat wave.
Yeah, it kind of just looked and like, wow, because we were looking up, you see in the back of the camera, you go, there's grey sky, there's nothing there, and then there's like, oh, there's a bit of blue.
Yeah, the track was drying pretty quick.
Yeah, I thought the track will dry pretty quick, and then they're all on inters, and then they go on their formation lap, and you go, oh, geez, have they made the wrong choice here? And then a few teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams came in off that formation lap to jump straight onto different tyres.
Yeah, bold strategy call for, it was Russell, Behrman, Leclerc, Hadjar and Bortoletto who all decided to come in and change their tyres and start from pit lane, which is a massive time disadvantage for the start of a race. But obviously that's where they were looking at it and going, this is dried up so much that I believe that this is the right decision to make.
It was a gamble, yeah, but rain, it always adds excitement. It adds a lot of strategy options, and especially at the start where the track, like you said, Dan, was drying off. The forecast was for more rain to come through, but how accurate are those forecasts?
Yeah,
so those
we're all
guys
saying not lap 9 or 10 was the predictions for when that second batch of rain was coming through.
Well, that was about right, because lap 10 was when Russell and Behrman had to pit. Same with Leclerc, but their gamble was that their tyres, as the track was drying off, they'd be able to lap that much quicker, that they'd get up to the front, maybe overtake, Norris or Piastri if they were leading the race, for example. But it just didn't happen. And then, of course, the rain came, and everyone's in the same boat. They all have to go in and pit for new tyres. So really, they lost out.
Because lap 10 was the window for the inters anyway, sort of, wasn't it? Roughly 10 or so. So they were all going to be in about that time anyway.
Yeah, it depends how hard they push. You can't push those things too hard on a dry track either. So that it looked like at the start, obviously Verstappen and Piastri were pushing quite hard. So maybe they were confident it was going to rain again fairly soon, and they could pit for new tyres. Yeah,
but even too, parts of the track were dry. They said either the last 2 corners or
very slippery
later corners were still very wet. So that's difficult when you've got part of the track that's maybe okay and part of the track that's not. Then you can't sort of
and it's not just you'll be slow. Sometimes those corners on a slick, diabolical or undrivable. You can have one little moment, like we saw during the race. Plenty of people had moments on slick tyres, and away they went.
And that's it, going off. You can nurse the inters around the track and cool them off where you get into water. But yeah, if you're on slicks, it's like driving on marbles. So absolutely. What was interesting, and this is where, like with anywhere, all of a sudden it starts raining, everyone forgets how to drive. It was interesting to me that we had the formation lap under safety car. It just, as though these guys don't know how to drive around a track getting ready to line up.
And it wasn't
It was
super
very
wet.
strange.
No,
It wasn't super wet either. Anyway, race got underway and there was action pretty much straight away.
Yeah, so there wasn't, just the exciting couple of laps at the start and a couple of laps at the end. We had Antonelli who, look, as we were coming into the start of the race, Antonelli was hit with his 3-position penalty for his collision with Verstappen back in Austria last weekend. And we saw Behrman who got a 10-position penalty and 4 points for an unsafe entry into pit lane.
His entry into pit lane was ridiculous, though. He actually accelerated when he hit pit lane. And all the commentators said that is actually a very fair punishment for it because it was a ridiculous thing that he did.
Red flag.
Even without a red flag, it looked fast going in there.
Dangerous.
Yeah. It's like he thought he was on the track still. It's like just nuts.
To ignore a red flag like that is just one of the biggest no-nos as a race driver because it could be any accident in front of you. It could be someone lying across the track. Like it was, He
and that's what Brundle was saying because they were talking about. They said the problem is when it's come to safety, they're really, really, really strict on penalties.
And they said, you're entering that. You got no idea what's around the corner. He could have just been accelerating into a car that had just crashed out.
Yep. Yeah, 100%.
All right, so as we're saying, exciting start to the race. We saw Verstappen and Piastri going into the first corners. Max took the lead, but then Oscar taking the time to get it right to be able to do the pass on Max. So being able to get in there and get ahead of him. And I think this is where you look in regards to with Oscar is it's just that considered approach to when is a good time to pass. There was opportunities where we saw him attack on a couple of corners, but then pull out because he knew it wasn't a safe bet. But then once he had DRS and the opportunity to move, it was a very smooth overtake.
Even turn one, he got a great start, but he, pulled back a bit. It wasn't going to be safe to have a go there. And you don't want to compromise both of your positions and get overtaken by, Lando or Hamilton or someone behind you. So,
or you could be Liam Lawson getting shunted at the back, either way.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Liam. But yeah.
Sorry, you felt sorry for Liam turning into another driver?
He didn't turn in. He couldn't see the other driver there.
Yep, stuck out 3 wide. You can't go 3 wide through there. That was just never going to happen. You'll always have one of the 3 drivers who are not aware that there's a third car there somewhere. So no one's going to leave enough space.
What you're saying, Chris, you could just see Oscar at the start there, just hunting Max, just biding his time, waiting for the right time. A couple of opportunities, they weren't quite right. He had to go once or twice maybe, and then just waited and then got him at the right time and then just pushed on from there. Because I think he was lucky that Lando was held up a little bit, I think, for some reason. He wasn't keeping pace very well at that stage. Like there was already a gap of about, 4 or 5 seconds at that stage.
He didn't keep
from
up.
the first 2 back.
Yeah, his traction wasn't as good from the first lap or two, I don't think.
And Max and Oscar were pushing hard. Like Max's car looked all over the place. Geez, that looked loose coming out of a couple of corners. Like he was really driving the wheels off that thing with the low rear wing just to try and keep it on track, I think.
Yeah, and I think, Dan, as you and I were sitting there watching it last night, we're looking at that and saying it is considered. Oscar is considering where the options are, whereas we can see that the difference between Oscar and Lando is Lando isn't considering, he's just attacking. And so therefore there's some risky passes that he takes.
I was kind of waiting with amusement for Lando to catch Verstappen to see how he handled or he tackled that situation, because I don't think it was going to be as sophisticated perhaps as the way Oscar dealt with it. So, but we never saw that because of, I think there was a yellow flag at that stage that it was sort of when they were getting close to each other or some pit movement. I can't remember which one it was, but
Lando got past down the back straight pretty easily, I think. I think Max might have run a bit wide out of Maggots and Beckett's down the hanger straight there. Because, Max is struggling just with rear traction coming out of that section. And the crowd erupted when Lando went past. My goodness, you could hear it. It was they were cheering pretty loud.
He definitely had the crowd behind him.
They would have cheered whoever was coming through.
And at that stage, Oscar was 5, 6 seconds up the road, maybe more.
So it was Oscar's race earlier in the race. To Huppy's point, is he was 5 or 6 seconds ahead, and then the safety car came out, and that Concertina happened again, and then he got ahead again, and again the Concertina. So when you're seeing that is Oscar had the pace. Huppy, to your point, the Red Bull was slippery because it didn't have the downforce on there. So Max wasn't able to contend with Oscar. As we're saying, Lando was stuck behind. He just didn't have the pace through the start of the race. But that then brings us on to the fact that if we look at McLaren, I think it's appropriate to ask Happy, what were your thoughts on the penalty on Oscar?
Oh my God!
And go.
Look,
I'll sit back.
I can agree. He should have got it. He could have got a penalty for it. That's okay. It was 60 psi brake pressure, and he slowed from over 250 k's an hour down to like 100 or so. It was a
66 kilometre change.
It was a very big reduction in speed, probably too big. But again, consistency with dishing out penalties is something I would question. Like, people have done this many times before. You don't want Formula One to become, to have a rule book that's this thick and you're not allowed to push the brake pedal this hard at the back of a safety car and whatever. Like, it's very hard to police. But I just thought 10 seconds was excessive. It didn't impact the running order. No one had an accident. The only reason they would give it something like 10 seconds, which I think is pretty harsh, is that they deemed it quite unsafe. I don't know if it was that unsafe. The visibility was all pretty good, that they weren't going that fast because they were behind a safety car. So yeah, frustrating, and I can see why. I can see why Oscar was frustrated. Yeah.
Yeah, and you look at that, and I mean, this is what was interesting for me is we didn't hear a lot of the radio chatter, so we didn't hear what was actually going on amongst the teams. And obviously, speaking with Zach, he was saying we are appealing it. We're trying to see if we can get it overturned because we don't think that it's appropriate. We're talking about Verstappen, who actually invented the word brake check. And it is standard that when the safety car is going off, you do ease off to give the safety car space to pull in, and then you control the race as well in regards to the start, because essentially Piastri
you're supposed to
becomes the safety
maintain
car.
a consistent speed and then go. So Oscar slowed down, so the field would slow down, and then they would start the race. So Oscar's argument was that he happened to slow down like that when they announced that the safety car was coming in at the exact moment. So I think he was trying to imply if he had to just slow down and the safety car still had its lights on and there was no announcement that it was coming in, it would have been nothing out of the ordinary, because cars are accelerating, braking, weaving, just trying to keep heat in tyres. So look, that's where he lost the race. If that hadn't happened, there's no way he would have lost that race with the pace that he showed throughout that event.
And you talk about strategy, and strategically, by putting that slowdown, it has an impact on the tyre temps for Verstappen. And you saw this where afterwards that was to the advantage of Norris. So Verstappen, who obviously there was a change to his tyre temps as he's come round, and this is where he span off, allowing Norris to be able to pass through, and multiple cars passed through. Max dropped back to 8th position, had to fight his way back up to 5th in the end of the race. But so essentially,
rare mistake.
Yeah, but
So
it gave
rare.
Norris the position.
So rare that it could have looked like he did it on purpose, so he'd drop out of 4th in the championship and he could leave Red Bull. But anyway, but that,
which clause is that?
That's what gave Lando the win, because I think if Max had have stayed in second, held off Lando for a while, Oscar could have built, more of a lead and maybe, won the race. But thanks, Max.
I can't find my tin hat, but I'll see if we can find it and put it on for a bit later.
I'm not suggesting it was on purpose, but I was very surprised to see him spin. That's a really rare mistake from Max.
Yeah, I was asked if that was a McLaren strategy.
I don't think so.
So, Christian, did you want to touch on maybe the pit stop strategies going through the teams? Because I think McLaren has a very interesting strategy in that they're crap.
It beggars belief that the leading championship team continues to stuff up pit stops so phenomenally.
This is your pet peeve at the moment, isn't it?
Seriously, Zach Brown, who I'm hoping is a friend of the show. Zach, if you're listening, for God's sake, for the next couple of weeks, get your pit crew to practice pit stops every day until they get it right.
Was it pit crew errors, or was it mechanical issues? What was the issue? Did you say
front left again?
Front left again. So we saw front, twice again.
Get that guy a new rattle gun.
It was unbelievable. And so, from that perspective we know that McLaren is the faster car in the grid at the moment, but seconds count. And so I'll put the graphic up here so people can see this. I've gone again, I'm a geek. I love my spreadsheets, and so I've gone and put the DHL fastest lap information up there again. But you'll see here, Red Bull got the fastest pit stop for this race at 2.1 seconds. And so if we look through this on the left hand side, you can see here I've actually gone and taken the average pit stop time for each of the teams, and the fastest team is Alpine. Alpine at 2.32
You'd expect
seconds.
that from a team of that quality. That seems about right. Yeah.
To be fair, they did half as many pit stops as everyone else. So
and
they
they're
were
near the
rested.
back of the grid. They need every chance they can get to get up there.
But if you then go and have a look down, and if we go down the list, in ninth position is McLaren. And I've taken out the 10-second penalty for Oscar that he had to serve, which ended up making it 4.6 seconds. But you can see here for Norris, 0.6 and 2.4, and Piastri, 3.2 and 4.6. So an average of 3.7 seconds in a pit stop. And, we're seeing Ferrari that's leading the championship with
Really?
2 seconds.
It really surprises me that McLaren haven't fixed this, because it's a very, very simple fix. The simple fix is in the F1 movie, Brad Pitt, I think he just gave the wheel girl a high five. So they had Brad driving the McLaren in Circuit of the Americas. All he had to do was high five the mechanics and they would have been on point. Opportunity gone. He had the chance. They had Brad. All we need is Brad.
I'm sure that's the cover for it. Yeah.
So, and you can see on the right-hand side, I've done the total times. You'll see I've got 1 to 6 because I've taken out the teams that didn't have both of their drivers finish. And you can see there, McLaren is finishing last in regards to the pit stop times with the most time spent on pit stops with 14.78 seconds. And again, that's taking out Piastri's penalty. So for God's sake, Zach Brown, if you're listening, for the love of God and for my sanity, please, can we get your pit stops sorted?
Yes,
To be fair,
please, Zach.
There's not a lot of that left, so if you could fix that for us, that'd be great.
Please fix it, Zach, because we don't want Christian banging on about this for the next 2 months or the rest of the season. So please fix this. But no, they're lucky. They're the fastest team. They can burn a couple of seconds. It's not really affecting their results at the moment. So maybe it's not as big a pain point internally as it could be, but they've definitely got some issues to fix for sure.
They've got to watch out because Kickstarter's coming up behind them.
And I don't think that, Oscar having another couple of seconds on his lap, obviously had that long stop that he had to have with the penalty, but I don't think him coming out 2 seconds quicker was going to impact the results of the race. But it might have, if he was a little bit closer, he might have pushed out a little bit harder to get out and get onto Lando's tail. But
he came out 5 seconds behind Lando, a bit over 5. And he had tyres that were already warm. So there's a difference when you're chasing someone with 5 laps to go who's 5 seconds up the road and your pace is quite similar versus someone who's only 3 seconds up the road or 2.5. All of a sudden that carrot that's getting dangled is quite a bit closer. So it's all coulda, shoulda, woulda, and they obviously took a bit longer on Lando's pit stop as well, I think. So
it was looking like Oscar was moving up a little bit. His times were coming in a little bit, and then they it was like he had 3 good laps, and then it just then it dropped back again. And then it was, I think it was, by then it was like it was too far.
You can't risk it. Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he's not going to.
Yeah, well, you still got to finish, don't you?
You're not going to get the overtake. All you can do is pressure Lando into making a mistake. But Lando was never going to make a mistake in the last few laps of his home Grand Prix, and it was a great result for him.
He even took time to wave to the crowd on the final lap as he was coming into the grandstands and all that. And even the commentators were like, you shouldn't do that because you haven't finished
David Hill.
Keep both hands on the wheel. But Oscar just had those last 5 or 6 laps to accept that he stuffed up this race.
Well, I think to that point, Dan, this is where we saw a shift in Oscar a little bit as well. And when we talk about the Drivers' Championship, and now it's getting quite close. I mean, from this regards, there's only 8 points in it between the two of them now after Silverstone. We had Oscar who got on the radio to Tom saying that if the team thinks that the 10-second penalty is unfair, why don't we just swap positions?
And then race.
Yeah, and I think this was really telling, and not telling, but it was an insight into a bit of a change for Oscar's mindset because he's asking to be favoured as the number 1 driver. And Tom's gone, we're not going to do that.
No.
I don't know if he wants to be number 1, but I think he's got more of a killer instinct than people might have originally first thought, given his calm demeanour. But he was obviously really upset by that that message. And when you saw him in the post-race interview, I don't know whether he was emotional or not, but he did keep reaching for his eyes. He didn't want to talk about it. He looked really distraught about it. So, yeah, he really wanted that win badly. Yeah.
Yeah, the rain and the wind brought a lot of pollen over from
dusty.
the nearby
Yeah.
trees. So
Yeah.
I think it's his hay fever that was playing up.
But that's where his media training comes in, because as he was asked about it first, and he said, I'm not going to say anything because I know I'm going to get myself in trouble. He was asked about it again. He goes, I'm not going to say anything because I know I'm going to get myself in trouble. So you could see that he was really, really angry.
Oscar just
And he
needed
left
to
a little
talk
bit
to
out of-
someone after the race. He just needed to have a chat to whether it's Mark or Zach or whoever. Just have a bit of a chat and a bit of a breakdown of what happened and just vent. And not
I
do
don't
that in
get
front
time.
of the
That's the
media,
thing.
but-
You hop out of the car and you get a
they're straight in
microphone
there.
shoved in your face from Jensen Button. It's like, what do you do?
Jensen skirted around it because he said he sort of asked to start with. Then he said, "Oh, we're clearly not going to talk about that. He'll ask about something else." So he moved on reasonably quickly off that one.
So let's go on from that disastrous thing to Christian. Let's talk about the Cinderella story.
The finishing
of
result.
this.
Ugh,
Let's finish
Lando's
then. Come on.
Lando's hollow victory.
this is what we came for.
Oscar's
This
upset
is it.
second place, and third place was
Nico.
Hulkenberg. It was awesome to see. And
That was fantastic.
on Instagram, they had a video
Cheers.
of his daughter at home cheering as he got
That
up.
was
Oh,
cute.
it was great. It was cute.
To be
That
fair,
was-
now this I know your team Papaya, you two Muppets in here. They've won these. They've been up there before. Nico's first time up there. Didn't spray him with
I didn't
champagne.
spray him. I
Didn't
was like,
look
come on.
towards him.
Yeah, that looked
Bunch of orange Muppets. Seriously, they could have given him something, gave him
Yeah.
nothing. Poor
looked
for
rather
McLaren. Poor.
That was his first podium in 239 races. I actually couldn't believe the stat. I thought he must have podiumed before. At least got a third somewhere. But that was it. So amazing to see.
I was like you, Happy. I've missed something here, because
Yeah.
surely for a guy who's done 239 races, he's had 3 fourth position finishes.
I knew he never had a win, but I thought he must have had a third or something. Wow, that's good on him. That's really
And a driver who all the other drivers rate so highly, they go, he's the one to watch out for because he's such a great driver.
And they had footage of the onboard from Max. There was a camera above his halo from behind his head. Max came up behind Nico on the main straight, I think it was, or the straight after the main straight, and put his arm out the side of the cockpit and was like going, "Yeah, good on you, mate!" And really was really pumped for him. So it was actually really good to see.
I think he was indicating that he's got a seat in his plane on the way home.
Exactly.
The story was that
They did fly home
that
together
Max-
with Lando.
that Max offered him a lift home on his private jet
Yeah.
to celebrate.
But see, that goes to show that Hulkenberg's fantastic, because that goes to show you can actually drive a tractor around the Formula One track and still finish on the podium. So that's pretty good driving.
So like,
John Deere
Lachie-
were wrapped with third place. Yeah.
you must be looking forward to next season when they become Audi.
You wait till the livery comes out in this household. It'll be all over
Nico
it. Might be nuts.
in an Audi.
He talks about the 2 Muppets in Papaya. I mean, wait till you see the mate.
Great.
You wait till I fanboy up.
He's a Muppet.
We'll
He's
call
a
him Kermit.
Mega Muppet.
Ironically, a Muppet in
Yeah,
green.
Mega Muppet.
Yeah.
So I also heard that Sauber actually didn't have any champagne for the celebrations afterwards. So apparently Mercedes and Aston Martin
Yep. I
gave
think Aston
some of
Martin
theirs
ran over some bottles, and then
to help
Mercedes
them
set him some as
celebrate.
well.
It was a fantastic story, and
That's really good. Yeah,
Well,
I
watching
think
them when the drivers got out of the car and the whole team was around him all jumping up together, I actually thought that was awesome.
wouldn't you love to be at that party? That would have been awesome.
Oh.
Tell you what.
And Locke, you mentioned Papaya, but did you see it? I think there was must have been an interview afterwards, and Oscar said to Nico, they've got the trophy, and the trophy's like it's a Lego trophy. So I think it looked like the main trophy was a real one.
Yep.
And then they also all got
some
and
Lego.
then the secondary trophies were Lego ones after that. And I think Oscar said to Nico, aren't you happy your first trophy and it's a Lego trophy? You'll probably be able to buy that online next week anyway.
To be fair, though, he followed up with, "That's all right. My daughter will love playing with this, so that's okay,
It's
and
all
so
good.
do I."
It was a good story for the whole paddock, that one. Really good.
Yeah,
That was.
Yeah.
that was.
And I think this is where you see the dichotomy of it. I mean, and it was great, Happy, as you're saying, the whole team is surrounding him, throwing up in the air, Nico, but then you've got Lando's dad who starts going, Lando, and it's like, leave it, mate. Read the room.
Not the time, mate. Not the time.
But then, as you're saying, you see Mercedes and Aston Martin bring champagne, so it brings it all together. So, look, a great race, a great result for Hulkenberg in regards to his first podium. So we saw the results from that, from Max being on pole at the start of the race to Lando, I'm going to say, being given the win for Silverstone.
Gifted. Hollow victory.
Gifted.
Don't celebrate too hard, Lando.
Like, jeez.
He didn't win it. Oscar
Dan,
lost
do you ever
it.
get the feeling there might
Oscar
be a bit of
lost it.
bias in this room that we're in at the moment? Or
Yeah, lots.
Yeah.
Well, I think given the bias that it is, I think we don't need to worry about the predictions from last week, and I think we can skip straight over those and just move forward with our life. Like,
Before we get to predictions, I think the one clear thing that's come out of this weekend is that the rivalry between Lando and Oscar has maybe gone up another level. It's on. The next half of the season is going to be
it's on like Donkey Kong. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. But Zach was talking that down in the interviews after the race. They were on the side of the track, and they go, "Oh," and he's, "I think in Canada they got it out of their system. They had their little, the little touch up, and they're all good now. They got that. That hasn't escalated."
You can talk about cuddles and kisses and whatever he wants, but underneath they're competitive animals. You can really tell. Yeah,
that's all right, because Horner's going to get Piastri over in his team anyway, so it'll be okay. That's not a problem.
He said it. So, so before we get into predictions, and I think this leads in really nicely to that 8-point gap between Oscar and Lando. So, I mean, to your point, Happy, this really sets us up for an excellent second half of the season because they're going to be duking it out.
It's very close. Not as close as our predictions, mind you. This is also heating up, but we'll get to that in a second.
So we're seeing now that Oscar with 234 points, 8 points ahead of Lando. We've got Max still clawing on to third position, being 69 points behind Oscar. And George, look, unfortunately for George, 1 point, which has taken him 18 points behind Max. So Max hasn't dropped into fourth place, unfortunately. So I think that's clause 75.2A. Which hasn't been enacted for his contract. But we then go to the Constructors' Championship. So McLaren clearly out front. We're now with 460 points. So I just like to recall my comment in regards to the fact that McLaren could be online to a record point scoring of over 900 points. It's on the cards.
Yes. And I think one of the two McLaren drivers has sewn up the championship now. I don't think there's any way that Max or anyone else can catch either Lando or Oscar. So I think it'll just be battle between the two of them.
Just skip back to that, Christian. Now, out of the four of us, when we first started the season, I'd just like a show of hands. Who thought in the top 10 we would have Kimi Antonelli, Alex Albon, Nico Hulkenberg, and Esteban Ocon in the top 10 at the halfway point of the season? I don't think any of us would have our hands in the air for that one.
This is where making
my magic hat really nervous. I'm putting those guys in for potential pole and win.
Names did you take out last week? Because I think you might be stuffing them back in again now.
You could have pulled Hulkenberg.
Well, yeah, I can't remember. I think I took Albon out. So I'm like, nah, he's not him. And it might have been. I don't actually know. Nico wasn't in last week because Nico only just came into the top 10 the week before.
That's right. You didn't even
include
him
before that. He was out. I didn't reshuffle. I just kept it as the
both the Williams cars finished this race, which is good. And Albon got a bunch of points too for them, which was.
I mean,
nice
both
to
of
see.
the Williams got round the formation lap. I mean, that was an amazing result in itself.
I like how you call 4 points a bunch of points, though.
It's a lot more than they get in previous years.
A bunch more than Colapinto, Lawson, Bortolalo, and Hadjar got.
Plenty of teams happy with 4 points, mate. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Well, as we
Sonoda
talk about the teams, and this is where Nico's result has skyrocketed Sauber up into just below Williams. So they're now sitting in sixth place with 41 points, 5 points ahead of the Racing Bulls. So, so Sauber's doing very well for the season.
2 points behind Williams. You would not have picked that. And you all laughed at me when we kicked Sauber at the start of the season. Like, put that on record.
Hulkenberg is now 9th in the championship. He's been doing quite well. Like that's no one would have expected a Sauber driver to be 9th in the championship, I don't think.
I'll put him in the hat.
He's reached cult status now. He's in the hat.
He's in the hat. So, yep. So look, in regards to our predictions, unfortunately, 0 points for all. Regardless of the Hat of Destiny, regardless of the Magic 8 Ball.
Our standards, that's the main thing. Yep.
Disappointing.
So not much has changed in regards to the standings. Happy's still leading with
nothing's changed because we all got 0.
So suffice to say, if you want the right results, this isn't the podcast for you.
Don't come here for expert
Yeah.
finishing
Oh,
predictions. No,
There's
God,
another.
no.
There's another guy. There's some other guys doing a better job of that.
4 of us had a crack at pole and top 3 and got them all wrong. So not good.
We need
I think
1,000 monkeys
every
in
other
a room,
round,
don't we, or something?
I think every other round we've at least scored some points somewhere. So, oh no, round 8, none of us got anything. Oh wow, yeah, we're not going well, are we?
So
Whoops.
out of 16 options, we got 0.
I was trying to save us a bit there.
The numbers are just dropping at the moment. They're probably just unsubscribing as we speak.
Anyway, moving along.
Stop living in the past, man. Let's look at the future.
So as we talk about our listeners, it's really great to see that we're getting an increase in listeners, and we really want to hear from you guys in regards to what you think you'd like to hear from us, what you like about the podcast, what we can improve on. So please like and subscribe. Make sure that you're putting in comments and questions. We'll be sure to answer them as we go through, as we continue to create this as a funny, interesting and enjoyable podcast to listen to.
Unless, of course, you're a significant other. Because they can be a bit harsh, I think.
Yeah. And obviously our professional advice on predictions, please don't take that and put a bet on it because it's not going to make any money.
Email Christian at the Downshift podcast with all negative feedback. Thank you.
With that, it's only one episode for this week, given that it's a non-race weekend that we're going into.
3-week break. Summer break.
Oh, yeah, no, we've got 2 weekends off, then we've got races, and then we've got a 3-week break following 2 races. So
Yeah, don't jump the gun, Huppy.
I thought it was. Oh, we've got Spa and then Hungary.
correct. So 2 weekends off, 2 races, and then the 3-week official summer break, also known as a silly season.
Is that the contract negotiation stuff that starts to happen? All that talk?
Hopefully will give us plenty to talk about. So as I said, like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We will be doing a bit of a review reflection episode for the week following, and then we'll be doing the preview of the upcoming race. So until then, we'll see you on the next lap. And that's the checkered flag for this episode of The Downshift. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us in the paddock. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss a lap. And hey, if we've earned it, drop us a 5-star review. It really helps us climb the grid and reach more motorsport fans. Tune in next time as we keep pushing flat out to bring you fresh, current and entertaining content. Until next time, keep it fast, keep it fun, and we'll catch you on the next lap.